Hey everybody, it's Lon.TV, and it's time for your weekly wrap-up. And as I mentioned last week, I was going full-time with the channel, and this is the first day on the job. I left my job on Friday, my day job, and now I am a full-time content creator / consultant now, and it's been wonderful to have so much time to work on stuff. It's almost a luxury. I'm going to be filling up that time very quickly, but day one so far has been very nice. In fact, I'm shooting this about 6 hours earlier than I usually do, which is even better, so hopefully this will reflect in the content here. Now, we got a bunch of new Patreon supporters last week, so I want to thank all of them first. Chris Dunn, Matt Gull, Lyndon Shank, Kevin and Jake S. And then we had a bunch of people upgrade and return to the Patreon. So Rich Grega, Matt Jeske, C. Dennis Aharanwa, and Philip Gear, who is a returning patron. So I want to thank all of you for your upgrades and renewal of support of the channel. And then we got a bunch of people on the tip jar this week as well. So Terry Roadburn, Gary Johnson, David Loomp, and Thomas Krumpolk also gave via the tip jar. So lots of support this week. I really appreciate it. And I'm actually working on getting somebody in part-time to help with prep and whatnot, and those funds will be going towards helping to pay that person to make my life a little bit easier so I can focus more on creating content, which is what I'm hoping to do with all this extra time I have now, which again will be filled up very shortly here. So in the last week, it was kind of a light content week just because I was transitioning out of my day job, but we did get a couple of things up on the Extras channel, some unboxings, and it was really remarkable to see how much traffic I got on the Samsung Chromebook and the VivoStick unboxing. So it looks like you all like to watch me unbox PCs, so I'll be continuing to do that as I get more in. I've got a few more to look at in the coming days. And then I reviewed all the stuff I unboxed. So we looked at the Asus VivoStick, and I got one good comment on here on something that I missed in that review, which was the remote app that they have for the VivoStick. So one of the things that's bundled on that device when it boots up is the ability to control it from a mobile phone. So I downloaded the app right before I sold the device to a viewer. So it's going to a new home later today, but I did download the app and used it, and it works pretty well. You can use mouse controls. You have some keyboard controls with it as well. So if you just want to hook it up to your television, you can control the entire thing with your phone. And again, that software boots up automatically with the stick. Now, there's third-party applications that do the same thing, which is why I didn't really cover it, but it is a pretty nice implementation. You can see some examples of that running right there. So pretty cool stuff on that front. And then I got a note here from Train Dunluck and wondering why review it since it only has 2 gigabytes of RAM. It makes no difference from other PC sticks in the market. And this is exactly why I reviewed this stuff, because this wasn't a repeat. It's actually a device we haven't looked at. And this device, configured almost identically to the Intel Compute Stick, doesn't perform as well. And I think that's important to point out. And I think if you are a subscriber to the channel, you will see some repetition in that many of the products that we look at are made with the same guts, but oftentimes they perform differently, and the keyboards are a little different perhaps, or other features of those products. So as we look at more of the upcoming Apollo Lake processors, which will be coming in with a bunch of mini PCs we'll be getting here in the next several weeks or so, I'll be talking about some of those differences, about how some of these differ from each other. And that's one of the things that if you are a frequent follower of the channel to look for and to suggest for me to look at, because there are differences, and we certainly saw them here with the VivoStick for sure. So that was one thing I wanted to point out there. The Sennheiser PXC 550s came in. These are a pair of noise-canceling headphones, premium, about $400 or so, but they are very, very nice and sound great even with their noise canceling turned on. And Recording here wrote in to say that he thinks they also work as a digital audio source, and that you could plug in the USB cable into the headphones and then have your computer send the audio digitally via that USB cable to the headphones. And sure enough, you can do that. I missed that note before I did my review, but I did test it after the fact, and my Mac noticed that as just a regular audio source when it was plugged in via USB and charging, and I could send the audio digitally to the headset. Although it only shows up here, as you can see, as a 48 hertz device. So you can't get into some of the crazier 96 hertz and some of the other larger high-def, quote-unquote, formats that they have. But 48,000 hertz is probably good enough for CD quality for sure. And it sounded pretty good, too. So good suggestion there. I'm glad he made that suggestion, and you can check out that for yourself. If you buy a pair, you can plug them directly in with a USB cable if you want to do that. And I also got in the Samsung Chromebook Plus, and I think right now this is probably the best Chromebook on the market. Definitely check out the review if you are looking for a Chromebook that does a little more than what you remember Chromebooks doing. This one runs the Android apps. It's a fantastic tablet. I really think this is a really, really good product. And one of the things that happens from time to time is that somebody puts my content up on Reddit, which I love, and a viewer of that content on Reddit wrote in about the stylus and how I missed one of the components of the device here, which is that you can use the handwriting recognition feature to input text if you want while you're in the tablet mode here. And I covered this in my review of the Asus Flip, I believe, probably a year or two ago. And I'm going to do it now again, just so you can see how it works. I'm going to put it up on the extras channel so I can refer people to it, because this is a feature of ChromeOS, not this specific tablet. So what I'm going to do here is just go into a text box. I'm going to tap down here to the keyboard choices, and you'll see there's a little option here to do a pen. So what I can do here is just start writing out words, and it's going to recognize my handwriting as I go here. So I can, I just messed it up there, so let me just delete that, and I'll do a space, and then I'll just type in my last name and keep going here. So it'll do some rudimentary text recognition, and this is going back to the server, so you have to be on the internet for this to work, but it does work pretty nicely. It even detects things like emojis and whatnot, so you can see that the little smiley face there lit up because I drew a smiley face on screen. So there are some things it can do just beyond just the regular words and whatnot. It can also recognize characters from a number of other languages, including Chinese and Japanese, and I tried to draw the poop emoji. That didn't work, but it does a pretty good job of trying to determine what you're looking to do, and I thought that was pretty cool, and that's a feature built into ChromeOS, so you can use your pen and just write out stuff and use that as a text input, although I think the keyboard on screen might be a little more efficient, or of course unfolding it and using the regular keyboard on there. And now it's time for a couple of things that are on my mind, and we're going to complain about cable again this week. YouTube announced that they have a new cable streaming service coming out that will give you your local affiliates as well as a bunch of cable networks for $35 a month, and that comes with an unlimited DVR to stream to all of your devices. But once again, you're buying a whole bunch of networks that you have no choice over, and whether or not you like those networks is really no problem of theirs because you have to buy them. So as you can see here, we've got at least 5 or 6 ESPN networks, a whole bunch of other Fox Sports networks and everything else. And I guess if you're a sports fan, having all of those sports networks available to you might be a little less expensive than what you're paying with your cable provider. But for me, I don't watch sports. I have no interest in those networks, yet I'd have to pay for all of this stuff just to get my local affiliates on here. Maybe my daughters might want to watch the Disney stuff. I like the Sci-Fi Network for The Expanse and a few other shows, but by and large, I'm being forced once again to pay a lump sum for a whole bunch of stuff that I don't watch. So I tweeted out when this was announced that until there's a la carte, I'm not buying, and I think that's really where we need to end up with this. Now, some have pointed out that the reason why these packages work is that you're having subsidies so that some of the lower revenue-generating networks are able to be provided along with the ones that generate more revenue. But at the same time, if those networks can't survive, then maybe they shouldn't be around. And I think that's part of the issue here. I just don't understand why we all have to prop up this tired business model, even with a company as progressive as YouTube and Google are. But that is the way it's going to work for now. I'm not buying, and I don't know if you're excited about it, but I'm certainly not. Love to hear what you think down in the comment section. But I was comforted by this little note that I saw on TechCrunch the other day, in that YouTube is coming to Comcast Xfinity X1 set-top box. Now, if you've been watching me for a while, you know how concerned I have been over the potential of losing net neutrality regulations as they exist right now, because it means that cable providers like Comcast can charge platforms like YouTube for preferred access to their networks. And that means that if you are looking to watch me on YouTube, or maybe CNET on their own platform, and CNET's video runs better than my video runs because they're paying Comcast for that privilege, it might hurt my business. And certainly I'm concerned about that, given I just quit my job to do this full time. This I'm comforted by, because it looks like YouTube has paid whatever Comcast wanted them to pay to be able to get that data transited over their network, and it appears they're going to show up on the cable box also. So that gives me a little bit of peace of mind that if this net neutrality thing happens and Comcast is able to charge people money for better access to their network, at least YouTube appears to be willing to pay that fee on behalf of its creators. And that's good, I guess, for me, even though I'm kind of concerned about data being treated differently on the internet here. So that is a good thing, I suppose. And I also guess it's a good thing because we're going to see a YouTube button now on cable boxes all over the United States. And I think there's a lot of people that don't watch YouTube, especially older folks who are not all that aware of what's on the platform, or maybe think it's just young people content. But as you can see with my graying hair here, there's a few older folks like me doing content on the platform. And it's kind of nice to see that there's a potential to bring in more viewers, because now their cable box will have a button on it, just like like any other channel that they can explore the platform with. So I'm really excited about this, even though I'm nervous about the future of the internet in the process. Now, I did want to talk about what's going on with this net neutrality in a way that kind of gives you some more perspective, because yes, I am concerned about it as an independent creator. However, I think as an independent creator, I'm kind of collateral damage to this fight. And the reason is this, because we just talked about those cable packages where you have to pay $35 to watch stuff you don't want to watch. And the reason is that all of these networks have been really executing a lot of leverage over Comcast. So what happens right now is that Comcast has to pay all of these networks per subscriber to carry those networks on the service that they offer to customers here in the United States. So in the case of ESPN, they say to Comcast, we're going to charge you $5 a month per subscriber, and you have to offer that network on your lowest tier of service. If you don't, we're going to just pull it off completely, get your customers all ticked off at you, and encourage them to go to competing satellite or now internet streaming providers. And this has been the battle that's been going on for years, but it's been getting worse as more competitive choices in TV watching have been coming onto the surface there, and in particular the 2 or 3 that have just launched in the last couple of months where you can go over the internet. So these networks have a lot of leverage where they can say to Comcast, you know what, if you don't pay us, we're just leaving. And we're seeing examples of that here in my home state. There's a cable provider that lost the CBS affiliate, the local TV station, because they weren't paying enough. And there's this huge big battle, and they're really killing each other right now. But this has been the market, and that Comcast has to pay to carry all these networks. But with these net neutrality regulations going away, it can work the other way around, and that Comcast can demand money from the networks to say, if you want your content to be carried over our network, you need to pay us because it's costing us money to do it. And this is a big shift, and this is why Comcast and the other internet providers are so eager to be able to do this, because they've been getting screwed for years by these cable networks, and now they're looking forward to screwing them back. So we need to find some equilibrium here, I think, but this is why this is happening. So if you're curious as to why these corporations are really eager to strike down those regulations, this is why. They've been really having to pay out a lot of money, and by extension, all of us consumers have been. So if you ever wonder why your cable bill is so high, it's because of this. I think that Comcast is likely going to get out of the TV business at some point altogether. They still own, obviously, a bunch of networks. They own NBC and all of its owned and operated franchises here around the United States. But I think they will do much better and be more profitable as an internet provider, providing IP services, which can allow consumers to pull down whatever they want versus having to fight out all this cable television stuff. And if they get all these cable TV networks off their wire, they'll actually have a lot more bandwidth to play with as well. And one sign of that is something that happened this week. So as you all know, I'm an HD home run owner, and I got a letter a few weeks ago from Comcast stating that my cable card should still work, but I need to make sure that the device that it's plugged into can take content in MPEG-4 versus the MPEG-2 broadcast that I've been getting forever. So over the air, HD content, actually all content now, is transmitted via MPEG-2. It's an older compression format on the wire. It takes up more bandwidth on the wire than MPEG-4 will do because it's much more efficient. So you can fit more channels into a single band of frequency on a cable with MPEG-4 than you can with MPEG-2. So they said, hey, we're going to be switching over to MPEG-4, and I thought nothing of it. And then I started looking through some recordings this morning to get ready for a video I'm working on, and I noticed that all of my recordings now are coming in at 720p versus 1080i. So a bunch of networks were broadcasting at 1080i and a few were at 720p. But now even the ones that I know are 1080i are actually now being converted by Comcast to a progressive 720p stream. So we're losing potentially a little bit of resolution here. It's kind of a complicated argument. I'm sure a lot of you will discuss it down in the comment section below, because 1080i is technically 540p and yada, 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 but they are reducing the resolution. And there was a comment from one of the Comcast techs that is on their official forums, and they're talking about a move to IP video delivery here, which I thought was rather intriguing to me. So I think they are moving in a direction where they can finally just cut themselves loose of all this cable television stuff and let you, hash it out with the provider that you want to get content from. I think that's where we're going here. You pay Comcast for the dumb pipe, and then everything else is delivered to you based on how you want it delivered. And then Comcast can say to those networks and say, hey, you know what? We've got 50,000 customers that really want your channel. Don't make us degrade their service to a point that your competitor who is paying us is getting better service. And I think that is really where we're going to see this go. And this was really intriguing to see all this kind of come together this week. And now it's time for some Q&A. And I get these comments every time I review a Chromebook that costs more than $300, like the real Adam T there saying, dude, I ain't paying more than $150 for a Chromebook. I don't care if it can do cartwheels. And this is the kind of stuff I get every time I look at kind of these new mid-range Chromebooks that are coming out. And I think, though, that the viewers of this channel, myself included, are not the target audience for Chromebooks. But a few things have been happening over the years that I think are driving more consumers to look at these as an option. Primarily that I think for a lot of folks, they're doing just about every computing task they do on a web browser. And for those people like my mother, it makes a lot of sense. And we also put these into my school system locally here. I'm on the Board of Ed, and we instituted a one-to-one Chromebook program in a number of grades. And it's been wonderful because these things are so easy to administer. They update themselves. There's not a lot of maintenance involved with keeping a Chromebook up and running. And the school has been really pleased with how everything has been working over the last year or so since they rolled out this program. So there's a lot of good reasons to look at a Chromebook. And I think now they're starting to creep into the consumer market in a way that we're seeing these devices that are really kind of cool and actually pretty affordable. This is a nice device. I don't think you can find a Windows laptop with this quality of display, with this weight and size and performance level for the same price. If you can find one that does everything this one does for under $500, show me down in the comments section below. I'll be happy to review it because I have not seen a Windows device get close to this price point with this level of quality, especially with the display on this. This is a really decent computer for the money, and I think for a consumer that just browses the web, this is going to be more than adequate. And I think the deal maker is going to be the fact that these Android apps now are creeping their way in. So even for a slightly more serious user that has a few apps that they want to run, they might find an Android version of that app to use on their device. I'm sure they have a lot of Android phones perhaps out there in the world, as we all know they do, that are full of people buying apps for their phones that they can now run on their Chromebooks. There's going to be a lot more functionality brought in, and even for people that play games, you could download the Minecraft Pocket Edition or whatever and play games and a number of other things like emulators like we demonstrated in the review on these Chromebooks. So I think over the next 6 or 8 months, we're going to see a lot more of these mid-range Chromebooks coming out, and I think we're going to see a lot more people buying them because they really are coming to a point where I think most consumers will look at them as a serious option. And Ballfan1968 tweeted in, he's also known as Recipe Bob on the comments section here on the channel, about some new remote code exploits that might be emerging on the WD MyCloud platform. I'll put a link down below to where you can find more information about this. And one of the things that I'm going to suggest to folks is take devices off the internet that you don't need to have on the internet. So you could have them connecting to the internet, but you don't necessarily need to have things connecting back in. And one of the things I'm going to start recommending people do on their MyCloud device, just because there's a lot of exploits that these guys have found on these boxes. And I'm not sure how many are accessible if somebody is outside your network, but it's enough of a concern that I'm really going to suggest to people that for the time being, at least until we hear from WD, that you click on the settings gear icon, go over to general, and just turn cloud access off. It will disable some of the features that allow you to do different things on the drive, but in the coming weeks I'm going to start giving you some how-to videos on setting up your own VPN so you can have a secure way to connect to your local network and access the things you want on your home network and allow others to do so as well, but not have it just out there world accessible or relying on others to lock down your network. It's not as hard as you might think it is, and I think it's definitely something worth considering, and many routers now have this VPN functionality built in. And Joe Cujo D wrote in wondering what my strategy is for backing up my network attached storage device. So I use a Synology disk station, a 415 Plus, and in full disclosure, Synology is a sponsor here on the channel occasionally. And what I do is take that data from that NAS device, use the Hyper Backup utility that I covered a few months ago. I back up to an external drive. I then take that drive off-site so that I have a safe place to put it. I've got another drive that I keep at that off-site location that I bring home, so I swap them back and forth. It's not the best process because I do have to manually set up which backup schedule to execute based on which drive is connected, but it gets the job done. I only swap them out maybe once a month or so. I don't usually add too much data that I don't have in other places like cloud storage and other areas. So that's what I've been doing now, but because I don't have a day job anymore, I don't have a place to put that drive every other month. So what I'm going to do is get a second, less expensive Synology NAS, and what I'll be doing is actually using Hyper Backup over the internet. So I'm going to bring that second drive over to my mother's house, just off-site from here, and I'm going to do an incremental backup from here to her house with a VPN. So when we do that VPN thing, part of the reason why I want to do that is so I can get my backup strategy working. And in order to get it set up, what I'm going to do first is actually have both of those NAS devices located here in the house. So I can do that initial backup on my local network, which is gigabit speed, and then I'll be backing up just the incremental changes to my mother's place over time. So that is my grand strategy here, and then that way it'll run every night. I'll get a backup and everything everything will be off-site at the same time, and it shouldn't push too much data because I'm not adding all that much to the NAS every day that you can't get that loaded up overnight. So that is the strategy. We'll see how it comes together. What Joe is doing here is also using some synchronization utilities built into the Synology to back up to Amazon Drive and Google Drive also. So there's a lot of options that you can do here, and I would actually recommend doing as many as you can afford to do because you can never have too many backups. What I do typically, though, for my day-to-day work is I do most of my work either in Google Drive or on Dropbox. So if something were to happen in the short term, anything that I'm currently working on is backed up just because it's syncing up to Google Drive and Dropbox. But I definitely want to get a better offsite backup strategy for all of my archive data. And you all know how I am very concerned about USB-C and how consumers are going to be confused by it. And I'm starting to get emails now from folks who are trying to do things that are not possible. So here's an example of someone who wrote in who purchased an HDMI to Thunderbolt adapter. This allows you to plug video into one end and then Thunderbolt out the other that you would then connect to a Mac and stream out to the web. And he bought this thing thinking that, hey, I could just get the adapter here. Look at it. It's got Thunderbolt on one end and a USB Type-C connector on the other, and then connect it up to his Asus there with the USB 3.1 port, but that doesn't work because even though this cable will fit in a USB Type-C connector, the technology is very different. So nothing will happen even though this fits. And I think what's going to happen here over time is that a lot of consumers are going to be very confused over this standard. They're going to be buying Thunderbolt devices and discovering they don't work on their particular computers. And I know when I bought this adapter, which is a Thunderbolt adapter, Thunderbolt 2 to Thunderbolt 3, it said on the title on Apple's website that it was a USB-C device, even though that's the connector it plugs into, not the technology that transits the data through. So this is going to be a real nightmare moving forward, and I may even just start a whole separate series on the channel of people confused by this. Not to make fun of them, but the fact that the industry has created a standard that is so muddled with so many different variations to it that there's no way consumers can make sense of it all. I've had a hard time with some devices just trying to figure out what their capabilities are because they perform so differently from one device to the other. So just brace yourself. If you are the tech support person at your office or in your family, you're going to be getting a lot of calls, and this is just the first wave of them that I'm seeing here on the channel. So stay tuned for that. And now it's Q&A for you time. We're going to have a viewer ask the question this week. Carmen Nooner was wondering, are there Bluetooth headphones out there that get about 20 to 30 hours on a charge that cost $250 or less? And I'm sure there are. Some of you already responded to Carmen's comment earlier, but this might be a fun discussion. I don't do a lot of headphone reviews here on the channel. I do them occasionally, but I would like to maybe find a good value pair that we can evaluate and maybe compare to those more expensive ones we've just looked at. So it might be a fun discussion to follow. So help Carmen out down in the comment section and I'll follow along as well. So it should be a fun discussion on Bluetooth headphone recommendations. So now it's time to look at the channel of the week, and I just found this one. It kind of popped up in my recommended list called the Gamer's Nexus, and if you are interested at all in the Nintendo Switch, they got one and then took it apart, and they didn't break it or destroy it. They actually just took it apart to see what was inside of it. So if you're curious as to what is making the Nintendo Switch work, it might be worth taking a look at. They took apart the main console, the tablet portion, as well as the base and the Joy-Cons. So if you're curious as to what is inside and don't want to take yours apart, check out their channel. Pretty cool stuff. Definitely worth taking a look at, and I will be on the lookout for more content from them in the near future. So this week, I might be getting the Nintendo Switch, speaking of. Now, I wasn't planning on reviewing it because I didn't think I'd be able to get one early enough, and what do you know, B&H Photo and Video had some in stock, and I think I'm getting mine tomorrow. I'm not sure about that, but if I do, I might do a live stream as I unbox it and get it set up and running so I can begin evaluating it. There aren't many games on it to really make a kind of a judgment call on the console itself. I think there needs to be some more software development, but it is an intriguing concept because you do have a tablet along with something that you can dock to your television. So I've been following around some other YouTubers who have been playing with these over the last couple of days, and I'm kind of intrigued by it. So I might do a little bit on it, even though I wasn't planning to review it, again, because I didn't think I'd get one. But if I do get one tomorrow, you'll probably see it here on the channel. And actually, what I'd love to hear from you all is what should I cover in the review? Because this thing is talked about to death already, so I don't want to repeat too much of what other people are doing. I'll, of course, give you my take on it, but if there are things that you feel haven't been covered effectively, do let me know down in the comment section, and I'll be sure to integrate that into my review when I do it. I'm also planning this week to look at the Plex Cloud. So there are two Plex Cloud components out there. The first is a ability to sync up your content with a cloud provider, so you could have some transcoded video live on your Amazon Drive Drive or on Google Drive or something like that. But there's a new service out that actually has the server run in the cloud. So you can upload video files to one of your cloud storage providers and then have Plex actually run your server for you if you have a Plex pass. That is what we're going to be looking at. We're going to see how it transcodes, how it works, how to get it set up. And that will be our sponsored Plex video of the week. I'll be working on that one later this afternoon, and I should have it up Tuesday or Wednesday, so be on the lookout for that. And if you want to help the channel, you can go to Lon.TV/Patreon and make a monthly contribution to the channel to help our fund for staff. We also have the tip jar set up at Lon.TV/tipjar if you want to make a one-time contribution, because Patreon is a monthly thing. If you just want to give every once in a while, the tip jar is the place to do it. That runs through my Square store. We also have a Plex thing set up where if you sign up for Plex, even if you're just getting the free account, we get a small commission. So you can go to Lon.TV/Plex, or you can give a Plex pass as a gift to a friend so they can get on the cloud server at some point too at Lon.TV/Plex gift. And you can engage with the channel in a whole bunch of different ways. We have the extras channel at Lon.TV/extras for my unboxings and other supplementary content. The email list at Lon.TV/email, where I send out a summary of all the stuff I've done over the course of the week. We have the Facebook page at Lon.TV/Facebook, and be sure to set your notifications on so you actually see what I post, because they often make me want to pay to get you to see it. So you can override that with a notification setting. We also have the store, and what I do on the store is I sell the things that I bought and now I'm ready to get rid of, and this Samsung will be up there very shortly. I sell these things at a slight discount because they're used. So if you're looking for a good deal on some new hardware that I reviewed on the channel, you're actually buying what I reviewed. The actual unit will go out to you. Some people have had me sign their devices. I've got a special gold pen for that, so if you want me to sign your device, I'm happy to do it, no extra charge. So you can head over to the store. I got a bunch of Chromebooks on there right now, including a couple of the flips, and I got that Dell gaming laptop still up there also. So take a look and see if you're interested in one. And I'm sometimes open to a deal, so if you want to make an offer on something, send me an email at lon@lon.tv and I'll consider it. We also have live streams that I'll be archiving at Lon.TV/live streams. A lot of you sometimes miss those streams, so whenever I upload a new one, it'll show up in there. And then on my email list, I'll let you know that I did do one, so you can go in and check it out. Now that I have time, I may start scheduling some live streams also, so you know when to watch. So be on the lookout. I'm not going to schedule the Nintendo Switch one, primarily because I don't know if I'm getting it tomorrow. They say I am, but we'll see. But also, I don't know what time the UPS guy might show up, because I haven't really been home during the day before to know. So I will just go live with it when it comes in. So that is coming up on hopefully tomorrow. So that's going to do it for this week's weekly wrap-up. Hopefully this was a good one for you all. I'm actually well rested here because it's only about 3 o'clock in the afternoon, and I still got more work to do on the channel. So I'll be doing that, editing this and uploading it, and I'll be keeping my usual posting time. But I would like to know if I'm posting too late or too early for your time zone. I've been thinking about ideal times to post videos, so let me know down in the comments about that as well. So all sorts of stuff going on. Thank you all for your support. It has made this career change possible. So please keep your questions and comments coming down below in the comment stream, and I look forward to talking with all of you throughout the week. This is Lon.TV, and thanks for watching. This channel is brought to you by my Patreon supporters. If you want to help the channel, you can by contributing as little as $1 a month. Head over to Lon.TV/Patreon to learn more. And don't forget to subscribe. Visit Lon.TV/S.